Hello out there. You're listening to Coffee and Culture on Talk 1260 and 103.7 KTRC, streaming at santafe.com. Podcasts are on Spotify and my website, and it's called Coffee and Culture with Matthew Chase Daniel. And I'm your host every couple of weeks and always talking to interesting people, usually people, artists, musicians, scientists, people who were doing things in Santa Fe around the time that we broadcast. And today I'm talking with Laura Ortman, and Laura is a musician, performer, composer, sound collector, violinist, and she lives in Brooklyn, and she's in Santa Fe the weekend that this is airing, playing through Site Santa Fe, piece at the San Miguel Chapel called In Defense of Memory, playing at the Eco Art Spaces, opening for their art show up at the Randall Davy Audubon Center, and playing out on Saturday night out on Trades West in a little alternative space out there. So glad to have you here. Glad you're coming to Santa Fe again. I know you come here on and off for years and have connections here and friends here, and we really appreciate you. So welcome.
Thank you.
So you were born in Arizona as part of the White Mountain Apache tribe, and were adopted and grew up in a whole other culture, I imagine, in Iowa, and then later in your life reconnected with your family in Arizona and moved to New York City. And so you have sort of this cultural, a lot of cultural history that comes from diverse kind of diverse places and diverse cultures. And listening to your music, I see that it's informed by both of those, and just your own sort of interpretation of the world, it seems. So can you talk a little bit about that and growing up? Your family in Iowa was a family of musicians, and you played violin early as a kid, and how that was for you.
Oh yeah, I've been playing the violin since I was 7.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up outside of St. Louis, and my grandma was a violinist, so she was really a big inspiration in my life because she was very peaceful and happy, and was a really fantastic musician. But yeah, I was born in Arizona, and on the res, and then yeah, it's a really complex, intricate, really personal, private story for both my families. So I take this care and concern in acknowledging all the different pathways that I've been zoomed through, and of course, all the chaos and inspiration brought me to New York in '97.
Yeah. And New
Where
York is such a cultural crossroads as well, and so many different um, inspirations and things to see and feel and do. And I feel like I was reading or listening to something you said, and you were talking about how you live on Flatbush Avenue, and the sound of the traffic, and the feel of the traffic moving down Flatbush Avenue is like a river. Um, and I spend time in a place in LA right by the interstate, and to me the sound there always sounds like the ocean when I wake up in the morning.
yeah,
And
I
so I
just
could
shut the
relate to that.
windows. I just shut the window because it was like it's been raining for days now, and it's like so it's super rivery, but it
Yeah.
might be too loud for the interview.
But
Um,
it sounds fine on this end.
yeah, I moved here for art and music, and that's what I got. And in addition to meeting many heroes, friends, artworks, concerts. I mean, just nature. I mean, everything here is just brimming over the edge, and I appreciate that. Um, Even my house is the same as that, as as wild as it gets. So yeah, it's like a big continuum in my life, I feel, because it's everything has all these interactions with your own personal stories and your soul, and what you choose to do with
Yeah,
your time here.
right.
So
Well,
yeah,
so
it's
you've
been
been there a long time. It's home now, it sounds
yeah,
like, and you're
yeah,
traveling a lot for your playing.
yeah.
So,
It's the best because I have just spent the past 2 months here without playing any shows, and it was a really big shock to me. The first week or so, I was completely depressed. I'm like, what am I doing with my life? I'm not all played out, but
right.
it's been a tremendous year with lots of um, good and bad, and it was like the universe is saying, like, stay home, Laura, where you live, stay in your home and sleep in your bed continuously, and start making your own food again, and hang out with your friends, and practice and re-energize. And I'm so grateful because it was worth it. I live here and I'm really excited. I go to the beach, free concerts, hang out with friends, go to parties. It's just been great. And then so I'm really excited for next week to kick off back at Indian Market in Santa Fe, and just I hope it feels like a fresh season. So I'm
Yeah.
really excited. Yeah, yeah, it's gonna be great to see everybody, and see how everyone's doing.
Yeah. I think sometimes those hard times where we feel it's sort of a fallow period, whereas an artist, you all of a sudden you're confronted with, like you're saying, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Um, and there's a little bit of sadness and despair, and um, those periods can be really generative if you allow yourself to sort of go into it and go through it rather than resisting it and staying busy with the other stuff. So I can appreciate that. I'm glad you've had that time there to focus on that. I think I'm gonna put in a little bit of music. We have a couple minutes left in this segment, so I'll hear some of Laura's music, and then we'll go to a break, and we'll be back with Coffee and Culture. And I'm Matthew Chase Daniel talking with Laura Ortman. We'll be back soon. That was Laura Ortman performing atop Jeffrey Gibson's monument installation at the Socrates Sculpture Park in 2021 in New York City. You're back listening to Coffee and Culture. My name's Matthew Chase Daniel. I'm talking with Laura Ortman, who is an artist, musician, performer, composer, and is in Santa Fe this weekend for a bunch of different stuff that happens around Indian Market Weekend, with Sight and with Broken Boxes and with the Eco Art Space up at the Audubon Center. So check it out and check her work out online. There's videos on YouTube of great performances. I saw a performance of Jeffrey Gibson did a large sort of pyramid mound-shaped sculpture in Socrates Sculpture Park by the river there in New York. And there's a great video of you playing. The video starts inside the structure and then it moves to you on top playing, and it's filmed with drones, and it's a great video and great music. And I love how I think it's very much in that one, but in a lot of your work, it moves from this very melodic, beautiful, sounds classical, that beautiful tone that the violin can make, clear like a bell. And then there's a progression into distortion and feedback and cacophony, and it's this great you're very good at both and being able to bridge from one to the other. And to me, I don't know, this is my very personal interpretation, it has to do with sort of beauty and horror and organization and chaos, and this what we learn and feel from both of those sort of opposites. It reminds me a bit sometimes of like Hendrix playing the Star Spangled Banner, which is this patriotic song, but it's also about bombs falling and things like that in the meaning, even though it's not spoken in words. How do you describe that?
That's funny because I've been commissioned by the Arts Collective New Red Order to perform the Star Spangled Banana via Jimi Hendrix, a la Jimi Hendrix, and then have my own take on it too. And so it's a wild ride. What's going on? It's a wild ride. I forgot this other window's open. But yeah, I play the violin because it's like an extension of my body, I feel. And it's right here in front of my girl, like since I was 7 years old. And it's like I hold it over my heart, and it's like an extension of who I am. So it's way expressive because I lack a lot of words sometimes, even though we're speaking now. But I know what I'm talking about, but it comes out sonically, and then when you play what you want to talk about or bring up or expressing, it becomes physical because you put all this violin rosin on your bow, and then you watch it as you scrape the string. If you're playing super hard but super slow, it makes these plumes of smoke. Or if you're
Wow.
playing super fast, and like it has all these dancing movements of smoke, which creates this atmosphere right in front of my face that really speaks to me. So I know what I'm doing, but how it comes out is you can't put your finger on it sometimes. But it's just something where I'm so comfortable with my instrument, and I know exactly how my fingers feel on each string and holding the bow, and it's like extension of my mouth sometimes. So
That's
it's really
wonderful.
cool. Yeah.
I noticed that in sometimes maybe it's in that piece where you're playing on top of that Jeffrey Gibson sculpture, where maybe it's a different one, where you're using a megaphone, but it appears, and I don't know if I'm right or not, that using your voice through the megaphone, but then you're putting that back through the pickup and of the violin is amplifying that through the different effects pedals and distortions and loops and stuff. So in a way, you're like what you were just saying, like the violin is an extension of you and of your body. You're also, when you're using your sounds and your those are going through the violin too. Is that right?
Yeah. That performance, Jeffrey Gibson's, is called Because Once You Enter My House, It Becomes Our House. And it was the first live performance I did after all the COVID outbreak and just coming out of our homes and like still socially distanced. You can social distance on that giant ziggurat that he made. It was like, I don't know how tall it was, but I never felt so high. And it was incredible to play along the river and just like, see the beautiful water there and see my friends there. And I had so much to express. And I remember Jeffrey asking me, like, because he knows my performances. We've collaborated a bunch, and he's like, how will I know when you're done? Because you're always like, you have these, times where you just have, stillness. And it's like, I guess maybe listen for some kissing sounds, because I want to kiss the skyline and thank it for having us here. So that was my intention of making these sounds through the megaphone, through the violin. And then, yeah, because we had a social distance too. I remember looking at my friends and sending them kisses too, audibly.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You did a performance at Gagosian Gallery. They had a Nam June Paik show, and it felt like his work, a lot of his work, it's like he's exploring the nature of the television and of that machine in our age. And I know those works are older, but nonetheless, the television, the computer, the machine has so much influence in our lives. And if, to me, a lot of his work is like exploring the essence of the machine itself more than the content that's on it. And your performance, you were pushing your violin and doing percussion, and you were like, almost, it felt like in a similar way you were exploring the physical nature and the boundaries of the instrument. Is that, I guess in a lot of your things, it's not, you're running through effects and feedback and things like that, and we're not even necessarily, we see you playing one thing, but then it's going through a loop and the sound is coming out at a different time, and then you're playing over that. And just that process, your process in making sound, making music with loops and percussion and breath and mixing all those things together.
Yeah, for the piece for Gagosian premieres, which was a big honor to be asked to do that. I thought it was really essential for me because I basically kind of became my own one-man band, making my own music via recording through the Tascam 4-track tape recorder. And so that was essential that I brought that with me and started recording myself and then rewinding that and then playing back to that and having to do it. And then, with the massive space it was in and reverbing off the candlelight through the TV camera and just having that vista of distance sonically and technically was really thrilling. I had a lot of ideas and stuff, but it was also too, it's like within this small amount of space, having my 4-track right here and my violin right here and my pedals right down there. It's just like you can lose yourself. So it was Yeah, it's just like always like it was such a massive space too. There was all this ambient um uh, reverb in this massive room, and then just catching the different candlelight um rainbows all over the walls. And it was, yeah, there was a lot of room in there for digging deep.
Nice. We have to go to another break. I'm talking to Laura Ortman on coffee and culture. We'll be right back. I'm talking with Laura Ortman, who's in Santa Fe playing 3 different concerts this weekend. And so there's a difference. You've played in orchestras, you've played in bands, in trios, alone. I imagine those are all just very different experiences of how you work, whether you're playing alone or in other improvisational groups or in more orchestrated groups. What's that like, those differences for you?
Um, Essential. I yeah, I played in a band for a long time when I was first starting making my own music. But then the dudes got all busy with their day jobs. I had all this
Uh-huh.
extra time, and because I customized my life. I became a hairstylist, so I had make the same amount of money in a shorter amount of time.
Well,
and
that's
and so
good.
yeah, I was kind of smart sometimes. But so I had this extra time and I started making my own music via, the 4-track recorder. And I loved the 4-track because it was like it was me, but there's only 4 tracks, so you couldn't sound like an orchestra. You couldn't like overdupe yourself, and you had like these time provisions on each side of the tape. It was only one side and it moved fast, and it was beautiful. And then you capture all these like incidental, like sirens or traffic or creaks and stuff that happens in your home, and who knows, like so it was like at first it used to really I used to be like so a perfectionist about recording, like, oh, I heard that noise in the background. And now like I love those noises, and it drew me into more experimental ways of listening and creating and collaborating. So my solo take is be the one woman band, but also be the one person that plays well with others continuously. Because I get lonely. It's important to play well with others, and
Yes.
and try new things and record and break some barriers about what's possible. I collaborate, yeah, with mostly indigenous peoples in my practice, and it's with Native filmmakers, musicians, artists, poets, dancers. That's where I really kind of get to hone in and um, give it lots of like community and personal relationships, and rallying around what's it like and what are we doing and where are we going. So that's been a big part of my passion. And then of course in New York, you just these amazing musicians. Like I've got to play with some really great people. I got to play with Laurie Anderson and Tony Conrad, and I got to play with Pete Seeger. It's just, yeah, all these
Wow.
amazing
Those are great.
things. Yeah, I'm like,
That's
what?
exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, so everything is really great if you're open to it. I do I'm a very social person, um like sonically. I'm pretty cool, but yeah, I do cower into my studio and into my apartment, and I spend a lot of time alone. So it's always just like it's like you think about these things really intently and seriously. And then once you hit record or you're playing a performance with other people, it's like that's where you go buck wild and you're like like, okay, I know what we're doing. Like I'm not like contained anymore within
Right.
my own like head and privacy. So it's
Right. You go out of your head. You're not thinking. You're you're reacting and you're fully embodied in it in a way.
Yes, yeah,
And
yeah.
the
I can't
preparation
even,
of all that time.
yeah,
But
it's hard. I can't even really see when I perform. I can just, yeah, I can just feel and hear. It's funny,
right.
but
And all the preparation before you perform is what allows you to do that and pull it off when you're there, not in your head, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
So you're the one of the performances you're doing here in Santa Fe is called in Defense of Memory, and the three of you working together. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, the three of us yeah, we're very excited to play on Friday at San Miguel Chapel. We just had a meeting yesterday and just getting ready. But those guys saved me during COVID too, because we had regular band practices through Zoom, but it was mostly just having drinks online and talking about music, and at least once a month. And um, so even though we all live in three different cities, we're all still united. And
Nice.
then we met. I met Marshall at this amazing festival in Baltimore called High Zero.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great improv fest where they put solo improvisers together for a whole weekend and all these combinations. It's fantastic. And then I had a residency at Mokna, 2015, where I went around local musicians and recorded them for this eventual um, collaborative place recording project that I've been working on for a long time. So I found Carlos, and then all three of us were invited to play at Site Santa Fe. So this is a really nice, comfortable return to Santa Fe, and it's our second time playing in the church, which is fantastic because we are continuously bouncing around. You know, Carlos lives in Santa Fe, and I live in New York, and Marshall lives in Oakland, Bay Area, and so, and we're always talking about like what it means to like keep this going, because it's important work that we're trying to bring out and question and do it sonically like a family or something. It's really it's important that we address these things. I remember it was a couple years ago where I was like, I don't want to play in churches anymore. Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, they're great the acoustics. I know the acoustics, but it was just starting to become a regular thing. I noticed with performances, and I just started to get upset. And as soon as I said, oh, okay, no more churches, Raven Chacon asked me to play Voiceless Mass in the church. I was like, okay, fine. I tried for a minute and it was just not working. And these are all like really important pieces that come together when you get three good friends like me and Marshall and Carlos come together and try and sing about where we are and
Yeah. Well, it
how it
seems
makes us
important
feel.
if you have difficulty playing in the church because of what churches are and the history of churches, that this performance is about the church. And so it's
Mhm.
not just a venue for something else. Same with Voiceless Mass is also about the church. And so maybe you can keep playing in churches as long as the pieces are about the church that you're playing in rather than about something else. I think that's
Yeah,
yeah.
it was really really something. Our dear friend Ingrid Washington Elisa um, was brutally murdered in 1999, I believe. And um, her family, her husband and son, live here in New York, and they knew me as you know a community member. They're all native. It was really tragic, and so they put together this big memorial at St. John the Divine, which
Mhm.
is this massive cathedral in Upper Manhattan.
Yeah.
And I remember I was still playing acoustic then. I remember to go in to do a quick sound check. I was just doing some solo Bach, I think, or something. Just really, really somber church music. But I went to go in and tune my violin. I hit the A, and the A just went on for miles throughout the
Oh my
whole.
goodness.
It was like A, boom, like just twirled just endlessly, and it scared me. I was like, whoa, like who else is playing? Like it was really, and I've always been kind of shook by these things, and you know, I'm there for a reason. I'm there to help and you know, address what's really going on in our lives and how it makes you feel. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
I
we got to go to a break again. I'm sorry to cut
okay.
it off, but we'll be right back. You're back listening to Coffee and Culture on Talk 1260 and 103.7 KTRC, streaming at santafe.com. My name's Matthew Chase Daniel. I'm talking to Laura Ortman, violinist, composer, musician,